In 1981, a legendary cowboy came to town and took charge of the New Orleans Saints.
I'm proud to be here and proud to be part of what I think is going to be a great future for New Orleans.
Since then, O.A. Bum Phillips has improved his team each year, using common sense and a down-home demeanor. Bum is the Will Rogers of NFL head coaches, a genuine good guy who even wears a white hat.
Oh, I enjoy it. Enjoy the heck out of it. I guess that's why I don't have ulcers. I enjoy what I'm doing. Well, really, coaching is coaching anywhere you do it. I've coached in high school, and coached in college, and coached in pro ball. And it's still that same total involvement in a game. They're not any older, they just grow taller.
Bum does not believe in a trend-type situation. We've been through trends in the NFL. We've been through gimmicks and whatever. He just goes out and plays simple football. And I think a lot of that goes back to his high school days, his high school coaching days. He's convinced all of us, the fans, he's convinced us, but most importantly, the ball players.
One thing I want you to remember, football is only a small part of your life. It ain't life or death out there. All we got to do is go out and do the same thing that we asked from the first day we started. Do everything as good as you can, and then a little bit more. That's all the hell you got to do.
The Saints began 1983 by running over the St. Louis Cardinals. Paced by George Rogers' 76-yard touchdown run and the passing of number 18, Dave Wilson, New Orleans opened the season with a 28-17 victory. Against St. Louis, the Saints had done as well as they could. Now, with 15 games to go, they would have to do a little bit more. Week 2 in Los Angeles was a scorcher. A smog alert and temperatures over 100 degrees made play almost unbearable. But the offensive line refused to wilt. Stan Brock, Louis Oubre, John Hill, Brad Edelman, Dave LaFari, Kelvin Clark, Jim Peterzak, Steve Court, and Leon Gray protected quarterback Ken Stabler with a passion. The Snake was never sacked as he led the Saints to 27 points. All afternoon, the battle raged in the simmering heat of smog-shrouded Anaheim Stadium. The survival contest wasn't decided until Eric Dickerson tumbled into the end zone with barely a minute remaining to hand New Orleans a heartbreaking loss, 30-27. Back home, in a more friendly climate, the Saints revived. Down linemen Derlin Moore, Bruce Clark, Jim Wilkes, Reggie Lewis, Frank Warren, and Tony Elliott sacked Chicago Bear quarterbacks a club record 8 times on the way to setting a season sack record of 56. The defense also chipped in with a touchdown as Johnny Poe, number 25, took one of his 7 interceptions for the season in for a score. The Snake struck for 2 touchdown passes. One to sure-handed Hobie Brenner, number 85. The other, the speedy Kenny Duckett, number 83. In regulation time, the Saints rolled up 31 points. Unfortunately, The Bears did the same on the running and passing of Walter Payton. Chicago tied the game at 31, but in overtime, Guido Merkin's hold and Morton Anderson's 41-yard field goal finally clinched a wild and woolly Saint victory. The cliffhangers continued the next week in Dallas. Number 56, Dennis Winston, intercepted a cowboy pass with only 2 minutes remaining, which seemed to secure a 20-19 New Orleans win that the defense had helped earn with 7 sacks. But the outcome of the game was changed suddenly and dramatically by a shocking safety. The Saints lost 21-20, but it was a defeat that built confidence, especially in a defense that was rapidly joining the league's elite. The secondary of Dave Waymer, Johnny Poe, Russell Gary, Frank Watlett, and Bobby Johnson would finish the season as the NFL's best against the pass. Linebacker Jim Kovach, number 52, led the team in tackles. And Whitney Paul, Dennis Winston, Rob Nairn, and Ricky Jackson, number 57, rounded out an exceptional core of linebackers. Jackson made the Pro Bowl and led all NFL linebackers in quarterback sacks with a gusto that proved to be contagious.
To give you an illustration how our defensive team pursues, they ran an end run and our cornerback made the tackle, and there was 10 legal people hit that ball carrier before he could get to the ground. It's kind of like down here, a gumbo cook-off. Everybody got there at the same time.
Each cook-off featured Bum's old-fashioned recipe for defense and a little something to wash it down. The ingredients never changed, as every week a different opponent was force-fed a generous helping of Saints defense. The New Orleans defense was the overwhelming sum of its many parts. And in 1983, for the first time in New Orleans history, it totaled up to the NFC's top-ranked defense. They hit together, and in Week 5, they won together, when number 73, Frank Warren, disarmed Dan Marino of the Dolphins, and number 98, Reggie Lewis, scampered in for 6. Miami was beaten 17-7, and suddenly only one question was ringing throughout the body. Who that? Who that? Who that? Who that? Who that? In search of the answer, thousands of Saints fans marched into Atlanta for the season's 6th week.
People here, and they're loud too. They let you know they're here. We may not outnumber them, but we out loud them, Sally.
The only thing louder than the New Orleans fans was the roar of the Saints defense.
Come on, boys, come on, boys, big play!
The Saints offense got untracked in the second half when Kenny Stabler found Wayne Wilson for an easy touchdown. New Orleans took a 16-10 lead, but the Falcons fought back and went ahead with time running out.
Only a minute 16 remaining in Atlanta.
And that makes it exciting, don't it?
The Falcons have taken the lead 17-16.
Once again, the Saints were going down to the wire. Kenny Duckett, number 83, returned the kickoff to midfield. With a minute remaining and trailing by only 1 point, the Saints were thoroughly familiar with Kenny Stabler's penchant for fourth quarter heroics.
Stay on him now! Stay on him, Bradley! All right! And they called a timeout with 3 seconds remaining. Oh, baby. They never said it would be easy. And they never said it wouldn't be exciting with this football team. Morton Anderson will have the opportunity to kick one he's always wanted to do. 35-yard field goal attempt. The kick is up. It's high. It's high. It is good. The clock has expired. The Saints have won it. 19-17. The Falcons have been vanquished. Now they're coming away.
Way to go, Captain. I love you, man.
The Saints were off to their most exciting start ever, but many more heart-stopping finishes lay ahead. The Saints were flexing newfound muscle, and in Week 8 they took on the Tampa Bay Bucks. Once again, the Saints produced a thriller as Bobby Johnson beat it 70 yards for yet another come-from-behind victory, 24-21. By now, this team believed in Bum and his never-say-die motto.
You start crying, huh? It ain't over till the fat man spits.
Are they talking about you? Is that?
Oh, well.
But it wasn't just Bum the Saints believed in. The New Orleans coaching staff was one of the NFL's finest. And at the season's halfway point, these men had led their team to the best start in New Orleans Saints history. They led the NFC West and were dancing their way to the playoffs. But New Orleans would not be able to waltz through the season's second half, and no one knew this better than the Saints lying in wait. Kenny Stabler had been down the playoff path before, and he was prepared to lead the way again with his quick, accurate passes. Snake was teaching New Orleans how to win, even though injury sometimes sent him to the sidelines. In the season's 10th week, Stabler watched young Dave Wilson take over against the Atlanta Falcons. Wilson passed for 1 score, and the defense threw a gumbo cook-off in the Falcon backfield. Then Wilson turned the game over to the infantry. George Rogers flanked the Falcons, and Hokie Garjon went over the top. Garjon scored twice and threw a crushing lead block on Wayne Wilson's touchdown run. New Orleans pounded out a 27-10 victory over Atlanta behind its vibrant running game. After only 3 seasons, George Rogers is the Saints' second leading all-time rusher. But running mate Wayne Wilson is also determined to get his yards. Wilson's style is best described as aggressive and is conducted on the fly. Anderson went airborne for 11 touchdowns in '83, but he was not the only New Orleans high flyer. All the Saint receivers could sky, including Hobie Brenner, John Tice, Jeff Groth, Lindsey Scott, Rich Marty, Eugene Goodlow, and a 6' 6" rookie, Tyrone Young. The Saints were revved up and ready in the season's 12th week for a Monday night matchup against number 14, Richard Todd, and the New York Jets. Todd's rifle right arm kept the game close, and the Saints counted with Hokie Gajan, the Cajun Cannonball. The offensive line dominated scrimmage, while Gajan and George Rogers ran the Saints into a fourth-quarter lead. But New York came back with Richard Todd throwing the kind of bombs he launched for the Saints in 1984. The Jets won 31-28, and Bum's worries increased the following week as New Orleans fell behind Minnesota in the first half. Bum's bunch needed a reminder.
We've got 30 minutes to play and a lifetime to remember it. Do everything that's expected of you, and then what, 4 little words? A little bit more. All right, let's go.
In motion, Monty. 3rd and goal for the one. Wayne Wilson up and over the top. Touchdown. And the Saints have taken the lead with 12:44 to play.
Another New Orleans comeback beat the Vikings 17-16, and the Saints' playoff express was back on track, but headed for stormy weather. Week 14 found the Saints stranded in a New England blizzard. The Patriots scored on their first possession before the elements took over. The weather yielded not 1 point more as New Orleans fell 7-0. With their playoff hopes in a deep freeze, the Saints headed for Philadelphia with only 2 chances left.
Every man get a man, every good man get 2.
2 was the number. 2 wins to make the playoffs, and the first winning season in Saints history. Tied the Eagles in regulation 17-all. Then, for the 3rd time in '83, Morton Anderson's strong left leg decided the issue. This time from 50 yards away.
It is good, and the Saints win in overtime. Saints win! Saints win!
In the season's 16th week, the Saints came home for the most important game in their history. The Los Angeles Rams stood in the way of all they had worked for.
This is the most important play in the game. Let's go!
Saints jumped to an early lead, then watched as the Rams stole it away. Los Angeles scored on 2 interceptions and a punt return. But by this time, the Saints' comeback character was firmly established. And they weren't about to quit now.
2 inside 4 minutes to go. The ball popped through to the goal line by George Rogers. Touchdown Saints!
The Saints clawed back to a 24-23 lead and had only to hold on a few moments more to realize their fondest dream.
Look at the clock. Keep your eye on the clock. Go.
But with less than 2 minutes remaining, the Rams offense mounted its only drive of the day. New Orleans watched as Los Angeles moved into field goal range.
6 seconds remain. This is it. The snap is high. The snap, the kick is up. It's long. It is good. They're mobbing Lansford. The Saints are down. So
Los
down.
Angeles went to the playoffs.
Here.
New Orleans did not. But despite the pain of the moment, New Orleans could still hold its head high. The Saints were 1-15 before Bum Phillips arrived. In 3 years, he has led them to within 6 seconds of their first winning season.
That's a tough one. You deserved it. You know, that's the way it is. You've done a miracle work here, and I know it's just beginning for you. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Good luck.
Like the man says, it will take just a little bit more in '84.